G'day, I'm Tom Boyd. And really around when my mental health challenges first start, when these things started, I think, to get out of control and start to become a larger part of my life as a whole, both in the way that I thought about them, but also in the way that it impacted me. It's really not until the time of around 2014. As a number one draft pick going into the AFL, I moved out of home about 10 days after my final school exam up to Sydney to play for the GWS Giants. The hours would often dwindle by past midnight into the early hours of the morning, and I couldn't sleep, staring at the ceiling, thinking about problems from today, tomorrow, or ones from my past. And lucky for me at that point in time, I had the semblance of some thought and realised that for all of the bad options that I'd put in front of myself, the best and only one that I could choose was to pick up the phone and call the club psychologist at that time and actually say that I needed help. Yeah, I think my message to the community is pretty simple, and that is that if someone as lucky as I am can struggle, then anyone can. And so therefore everyone has the license, and in many ways the obligation to those people who love them and care for them to deal with this stuff as proactively as they can. There is no shortage of resources or awareness out there today, but what there is a lack of is true connection, I think, with people around them, that they can actually be conducive to facilitating conversations that are more than just how are you and work's busy. And the other thing is that, within our communities, we see such a growing level of struggle, I think, in two major areas. One, the world is changing, it's changing very quickly, and that means many things, but in particular, it's changing in the way that we perceive the world around us. Things that are happening, many miles away have started to become big problems in our lives. Things that we see online have changed our perspective of what good and bad is, what success and fulfillment should look like. And that really flows down into the second part, which is that a lot of our young people, and in particular in many cases young guys, are really struggling to work out where they fit into the world. And because of that, because of the way that they've been talked to and the way that they perceive the world through social media and the technological landscape that exists today, they're really struggling to find their feet and turning to some poor influences at different times as well. And I think we're really in a position where we need to continue to make sure that one of the great parts of Australia in particular, being this whole concept of community and mateship, which really runs deep throughout our great country, is something that we don't lose, because it doesn't actually exist in many other parts of the world in the same format that we have here. And so I think, from a governmental point of view and from a societal point of view, the more that we can invest in our communities to make sure that they're places that can support each other today, but more importantly, in many ways, support each other tomorrow, I think that's the most important thing we can do. Yeah, I think one of the challenges when you're thinking through what resources are available to support you is that there's a big disconnect between the what am I feeling and me as a person versus what generic material is out there. And I think the reason why I support Mind and the great work that's being done is because it connects the dots between who I am and how I feel with what I need right at that moment in time. And I don't think there's anything more powerful than that, because at the end of the day, we all feel like that we're in a world that's saturated with things for everyone else. But to make it personalised for someone just like you, I think is critical. Yeah, I think the really tricky thing when it comes to talking to young people around mental health as a whole is I hear two conversations, right? There's the old conversation, which is it doesn't exist, and there's the new conversation, which is that it's the only thing that exists. Now, both have got problems inherently built into those statements. I think for me, as a father of two young children now, the conversation still needs to be surfaced around, one, this stuff is critically important. It is widespread and has been widespread for as long as people can actually remember. But at the same time, we still need to give ourselves the capability to get on with life, right? It's actually about teaching people how to fish, if you will, rather than just giving them fish to eat, because at the end of the day, life is challenging for everyone of all shapes and sizes. And what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do with my children, even though they're both quite young at the moment, is to teach them how to actually solve these problems effectively, rather than either ignoring them or being completely absorbed by them at the same time. And people will say to me, in all of these speaking events that I do, hey, what's like the magic thing to fix your mental health? And if I had it, I would be a billionaire. I'd give it away for free. But the reality is, the way that I approach it is, if I have a bad morning, I'm going to ensure that I don't have a bad day. If I have a bad day, I'm going to ensure as much as humanly possible that I'm not going to have a bad week. And in many ways, life is a game of tennis, and you just need to get the problems off your side of the fence or side of the net and into someone else's, so that you can keep moving and keep moving forward.